Hi, it's Cammy. Charlie talks football.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Charlie Talks Football. So nice to be back again for a video because there's been a whole load of stuff coming out regarding transfer news in Newcastle. Obviously we have just finished off the season as well, so it's going to be very exciting to see how the transfer window develops. So anyway, let's get into the video. So it has been reported that Newcastle have made contact with Victor Osimhen's agents about a potential transfer. Now, as you know, Napoli have just won the league. Osimhen's done pretty much everything he can for me at Napoli. Now, and apparently Napoli will accept around £100 million, but obviously he's a fantastic player, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Osimhen's always shared with the press his desire to play in the Premier League, so apparently Man United, Newcastle and PSG are in the race to sign him. Now, Chelsea are desperate for a centre-forward. They've got Pochettino as the manager now, but they can't offer him Champions League football. So
that will be the key, I think, in this. But it'll be interesting to see how this develops. Obviously, some people will say, why do we need Osimhen when we've got Isaac and Wilson? But you are forgetting that Osimhen's an elite level player.
He's
and
phenomenal.
Of course, Isaac can play on the left and stuff like that.
And Wilson's done really well at the end of the season, but he has got his injury problems, hasn't he? He does get injured quite often. But I mean, Osimhen, I saw him play a couple of years ago and he was very good. And I saw him play this season and he's developed so much. He's phenomenal. Without the ball, he can press really hard and aggressive. He suits Newcastle's style. He's strong, he's physical, aggressive, scores goals with both feet, outside the box, in the box. He'd be ideal for us, wouldn't he, Charlie?
So anyway, guys, let's get into the next bit of news. So it has been reported by Fabrizio Romano that Newcastle are closing on a deal to sign the talented Gambian winger Yankuba Minteh. Now, he is an 18-year-old winger who plays for Udinese. Now, apparently the fee is going to be around 7 million, but we actually have been linked with this guy for quite a while. We told you guys a while ago that there was a report came out saying we're in advanced talks to sign him. So now the deal we are closing in on the deal. And to be honest, I don't really know much about the player, but 7 million's a lot of money.
7 million euros for the youngster. I mean, he's a winger. He's been playing for Odense in Denmark and he's done well this season. He's a highly rated prospect, but Newcastle just need to sort out his work permit, then he'll have a medical. But they're already looking at potential teams for him to go out on loan because he won't join the squad.
Not the Scottish League. I don't want him to go on loan on the.
I think we've got links with clubs in Belgium, so he could potentially go to a club in Belgium or maybe Holland, but you never know. We'll have to wait and see.
It's good to see that Newcastle are trying to sort of bring in young players. That seems to be our strategy for this window. Again, 7 million's a lot of money, but it will be interesting to see what the club decides to do with him. Like my dad said, it seems like he will go out on loan to help his development, but I prefer him to go out on loan to like a German club or a French club.
I mean, let's look at Garan Cools went up to Hearts and he hasn't played much. He scored a goal in his last game, but he hasn't played much, has he?
But he hasn't really played much, like you were saying. Now, guys, there was quite a few reports over the last few days from Marca, which is a Spanish thing which does reports on a lot of Spanish news, and they've came out and said that Newcastle United are close to a deal for Gabriel Veiga. Now, a lot of Newcastle fans didn't know who this player was, and I do. He plays for Celta Vigo. He is 21 years old, a Spanish midfielder, and he's only just broke into the Celta Vigo team. And his stats are he's played 35 matches, scored 9 goals and got 4 assists, which is pretty decent considering Celta Vigo are 17th in the league. But Fabrizio Romano has came out and said that the race is still open. So despite reports coming out that Newcastle were closing in on a deal, the race is still open, and he has a £40 million release clause in his contract. So that that is it. What do you think?
It's an interesting deal. I mean, to be honest, I watch quite a bit of Spanish football, but I don't know much about him. So I've been on YouTube researching him, and he looks like he's really technically gifted. He's got 2 good feet. He can move the ball quickly. He can score goals. He's creative, and he's a real good prospect. But we'll have to see how that one develops. Keep our eyes on that.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because Fabrizio Romano does say that the race is still open, but I think we aren't closing in on the deal, but we definitely like the player, so that is certainly something to watch. And it sort of just came out of nowhere, a bit like the Isaac deal.
I think the difference with these players is like the Osimhen deal. If we were to go for him, it's a big amount of money to pay for one player. And do they want to get 2 players for 100 million or 3 players, or are they happy to go for like the likes of Osimhen and just get 1 player? And that's what they're going to have to decide. But news about Matt Ritchie potentially signing a 1-year contract.
So it has been reported that Matt Ritchie could sign a 1-year contract at the club. Now, Eddie Howe has said, loads before, that he does still see Ritchie as a valuable member of the squad, despite him not really getting as much game time as he wanted to. Now, this seems like, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, his contract's due to end, but to me, he's a model professional. He's a really good, he's a leader, and he's also a great example, and will offer support to young players coming through, like as a mentor. He is doing his coaching badges, and he has been doing coaching with some of the younger teams at the club. So for me, I don't think he'll play much of a role on the field for Newcastle, but
they
certainly
should offer him like a coaching
role.
They
could well do. I mean, but certainly he's a good guy to have around the club, and personally I would be really happy for him to sign another year. I don't think he'll be involved much in the team, but I think he's a model professional, and he'll help others at the club, and the type of player you'd want around the club.
So, guys, Fabrizio Romano, the guy who we really trust for all of our news, has also reported that Newcastle United are in the early stages of giving Bruno a new long-term deal. Now, there has been loads of rumours suggesting that the deal will be announced for Bruno. He certainly deserved it, hasn't he?
He does. I mean, he's a player that's so important to the team. He's the heartbeat of the team, and there's other teams sniffing around him, like some of the big teams, Liverpool, Barca, Madrid, and he loves the fans. The fans love him. He's a key ingredient of the team. We need to get him on a new contract and secure his future at the club. Yeah,
there's been reports that it's going to be around 200 grand
a week.
Yeah,
wow,
which means he's going to become one of the highest paid players at Newcastle, and I think he does deserve it. But it will be interesting to see whether Newcastle will give these players bigger wages, because obviously we are working within a wage structure. So will we break our wage structure to sign players like Osimhen, or will we go, we can't sign him because of wages? So that is certainly an interesting thing for you guys to talk about. Now, it is expected that Bruno, the new contract is nearly done and will be announced before the start of the season.
Fingers crossed.
That is great news for Newcastle. Now, guys, Fabrizio Romano has also reported that Scott McTominay still remains on the list for Newcastle. Now, we've been linked with Scott McTominay for a while. In the January transfer window, we were linked with him a lot. It seems like Eddie Howe really likes the player. Now, for the price tag, it is thought that Man United would accept 50 million, but for me, that is a bit too much. Maybe the price has lowered, but what are your thoughts on this?
I think he's a really good player. I think he keeps the ball, he works hard. Similar to Longstaff, though, so whether we do get him, I still think we might get Maddison, James Maddison. I know he's a different type of player, but I think Maddison is more likely to sign for Newcastle than McTominay. But you never know in football,
and
things
Harvey
can change.
Barnes has also been linked as well. It'll be interesting to see what happens with them two players now that Leicester have been relegated.
Barnes and Tielemans have been strongly linked with Aston Villa, so we know we've got links with Leicester, and we know that Tielemans lives in the north of Leicester in his house. They had those removal guys at his house the other day taking all his stuff out, so it'll be interesting to see where Tielemans ends up. Newcastle did talk with his agent earlier in the season, and Newcastle he came up and had a meeting, but nothing happened, so nothing concrete happened, so it'll be interesting to see where Tielemans ends up.
And of course as well, it's key to get deals done early, because you'll want the player to have a full pre-season. You don't want to sign them sort of mid in the summer with not many days days left, so it does look like Newcastle will try and get these deals done as quickly as possible. Now, it will be interesting to see where Gurran Kural will go on loan to next, because Eddie Howe has made it clear that he will go on loan to another club. Any potential teams that you would want
I'm
him
not
to go
sure.
on loan?
Like I say, we've got links with clubs in Belgium, and sometimes we send players out there, so that's potentially
I think
a possibility.
Dortmund's always a good, but
I
whether
don't
you'll
think he would
play
go
or
to
not,
Dortmund, to be honest, because I don't think he would get a game there. But he needs to go somewhere where he's developing as a player and learning and getting game time. So that's the key for him.
And I also just wanted to ask you, if you could pick anyone to sign for Newcastle, who would you sign?
Victor Osimhen.
Yeah,
Straight answer.
definitely for me.
He'd be so phenomenal for us.
Fantastic player for Newcastle.
He would be the one I would want, but whether that happens, we'll just have to wait and see.
So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. A lot of news has came out. We'll keep you updated with all the latest Newcastle United transfer news. Make sure to subscribe as well, and let's try and push to 700 subscribers. See you guys later. Bye.
Take care, bye.